Hi, I'm Camilla Luddington, and I play Lara Croft in Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
And I'm Darryl Purdy, and I'm the performance director at Eidos Montreal.
No. We did motion capture for all 3 of the games. This one was one of the hardest emotionally, motion capture wise. Darryl here definitely pushed me to my limits.
Sorry? Sorry?
For the sake of an amazing game that I am super proud of. But yes, it was fun to step back into the boots of Lara and get back into motion capture, and it's definitely my favorite game of all 3.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, honestly. I mean, the process is very similar on all 3 games for performance capture. I would say what we tried to do this time around that was maybe a little bit different is, I was mentioning it in an interview earlier, is that we really tried to do our due diligence in beating up the script before we ever got on the floor. So there was time to be able to kind of sit around and have a little bit of a table read before we started shooting, which was nice.
That is something that is different to any other time we've done motion capture. So that was really good, and I think it made a difference in the scenes and the performances in general. I think it's been interesting to see her journey, and I think that there are moments when, you know, perhaps it does look like Lara is just executing people, but I believe that, well, I have to believe in order to play her that there is a reason behind everything she does. She's not taking enjoyment in what she's doing. She believes everything is for a greater good. What has been the most interesting about this game for me is that she loses herself in that, and she crosses lines, and she has to take a look at herself, and Jonah helps her have that moment where he lets her see, kind of look in the mirror and ask her, is this who she wants to be? And the lines are sort of blurred in this game as to whether Lara is the hero or potentially is she very similar to the villain that she has been chasing.
Yeah, I mean, there is violence, of course, in the game, but I think I said earlier as well to somebody else that, you know, because she's so focused on her goal of stopping Trinity, she can kind of push away other things or justify them, you know, and I think like humans have that ability to kind of, you know, sadly do not so nice things and justify them for reasons, you know, and I think Lara is no different. And, you know, that's why, as Camilla said, you know, it's great that she has Jonah with her there to kind of like put her in check sometimes. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple scenes. I mean, when we get to some big stunts, we'll bring in a stunt team sometimes to do that because there is a risk of injury for people. I can think of a couple scenes where, yeah, there's some pretty elaborate stuff happening. You know, because in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you know, she is very capable. So we wanted to represent that also in her actions as well. So you see in moments that she's not perfect, like she's not a martial artist, but you can see in moments where she has fights that there's some type of training. She might have done something to make her more kind of capable in a situation, which I think is quite interesting.
I think also in this game what's been fun to see is that usually I feel like Lara's fighting against the terrain, and we've been saying that she uses the jungle to her advantage, so that changes physicality in a lot of scenes too. That's different in this game. I've joked. I mean, I'm not even joking really, to be honest. I have had to drown in the ADR booth, and I dream one day of having a giant tank and being able to do some of the scenes and just bring that real physicality to life. I don't know if that's ever possible.
Oh, I want to do it.
I would love to actually climb out of water and actually, you know, be able to
get some scuba gear.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Fingers crossed. I think that I've said this before, that Lara is, growing up, was certainly the only video game heroine front and center of a game that I knew of. I wasn't a huge gamer but I definitely knew of Lara Croft, and I think that there weren't many other women in games. And so I think that that is something that's a reason that she's so well known, and I think that now with the reboot especially, we've made her this a relatable human being. Yes, she has extreme dark moments and extreme amazing moments, but I meet fans all the time that have just been reintroduced to Tomb Raider because of this new franchise, and they relate to her in some way. They can find themselves in the character in some way. And so I think because of that, there's always a rediscovery of the character, and there probably will always continue to be. And so we will be continuing to talk about Lara Croft for many different reasons.
Yeah, I also think, you know, her journey in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it's interesting because, you know, the stuff that we kind of hinted to today with PyTT is you're going to see another side of Lara even still, right? Mm-hmm. So she does have this kind of obsession with stopping Trinity, but what's interesting is, you know, in the game, we've tried to use certain areas of the game to represent different facets of kind of, I guess, what I would say Lara's mind, which I think is interesting. And, you know, the tombs are these dark, kind of dangerous, lonely things that she kind of, crawls into. And that's almost kind of represents her mind. But then when she's in PyTT and she's talking to people, you get to see a lighter side of Lara. And you like, with being around these people, you know, she's used to being around dead things, right? Like artifacts and these spaces that, you know, things, you know, skeletons and stuff like that. But when she's around people, you get to see another side of her, and I think it's really interesting. So there's a nice contrast in Shadow of the Tomb Raider for Lara that, you know, makes her a very complex character, where yes, you have moments where she's dark, but you also have these other great moments where it's much lighter and you see kind of that softer human side.
Something we actually do go back and we do listen to little snippets of the previous game, and I can find snippets very easily. I mean, I have the games, I could play them if I wanted to, but I'm terrible at them. No, but I listen to little snippets, like specific scenes that to me are re-educating me again of where she is in her emotional journey and what happened just before. And then we sit down before every game and we kind of go through where she is at, because I am often in the dark at that point. I don't know if years have passed. I don't know if she has friends. I don't know, you know.
It could be a prequel. Like
yes, I don't know. So usually these guys fill me in. And that becomes part of the ritual of just sitting down and sitting with material and kind of trying to figure out how I can really relate to it and dig into it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I remember our first meeting for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You know, the story was actually, even at that time, quite a bit like different than what it was, what it became. But you know, those first conversations are interesting because it's also a bit of a collaboration. You know, like I mean, Camilla has played this character for, what is it now?
2010, 8 years.
8 years. So I mean, you know, for me, you know, coming into kind of as like a new director for this, you know, I rely on Camilla as well. She's the best person to be able to say like, what if we try this? Or I'm feeling, you know, maybe Lara would do this. I mean, those first conversations were, I felt like they were just kind of like, here's what we're thinking and this is where we want to go. What do you think? And it was more, we were just kind of like, you know, that first day we sat down, I remember just kind of like thinking or talking about like, would this be interesting to explore? Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. You know, we had of course an idea of what we wanted and kind of a direction, but it was really kind of, it's those conversations when you kind of, when maybe something lands for both of us where you're like, oh, that resonated, let's explore that. And then that kind of influences the story as well.
I also think what's interesting that happens between the games is I get to kind of sit and kind of fester and think about where she was just at. So when I get back into hearing where she is now, I have so many questions. Like, well, why did she get from here to here? How does she still feel about Sam? These are all questions that I want to, you know, discover with you. And so that becomes part of the ritual of like jumping back into another game. I want my questions answered as well. Even if they don't necessarily have anything to do with the story, I need to make sure that I know how she feels about all of the aspects that have happened to her in her past.
Yeah, from a character standpoint.
Yes.
Sure.
The up and down, the role.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yes. No, I was not offered the role. I was very pregnant at the time.
Okay, so that's probably maybe why.
But I think it's just business, to be honest. I think that Alicia Vikander is a fantastic actress, and she came off the heels of an Oscar, and that's who they felt like was going to be amazing in the role, and they were right. She was fantastic. I saw the film, and I've said before, there were previous Laras, and there will be more Laras after me, and I would like to think that we all kind of get to be part of the Tomb Raider family together, and it was really exciting to going to see the movie, to be honest, and getting to relive aspects of Yamatai. It was really fun, and yes, at the time I was very, very pregnant.
Well, maybe that was
Overall kind of technical processes hasn't changed a lot. I mean, of course, you know, the cameras are capturing, you know, better data, but really what we did on this project that I think took it to new heights were kind of two things. The process on how we shoot, like I was saying, like being able to make sure that on the day we have time to be able to sit down with Camilla and Earl and whoever's in the scene, and before we even start rolling, let's just read it through and talk it over and try to find what maybe the heart of this scene is. You know, because as a director, I come in with certain things. Of course, there's certain story aspects that we need to hit. But that, for me, I don't know any other way to do that without driving those needs through the character. And so that means it's a very big discussion with these guys to say, like, here's what I'm thinking. How does that feel? So to have that time before we even start shooting PCAP is invaluable, I think, because you know, you get some of you work out some of the kinks before you even start rolling. So that was you know, a big part of the process of getting good performance capture. The other thing is that, you know, we've put together a very, very talented animation team at Eidos Montreal.
I feel like her eyes have never looked so realistic. That's what I keep seeing.
Yeah, I mean, this is, well, if you Dave, who was the cinematic director, so that's where, you know, I was trained in animation as well before this, and, you know, when you're doing facial animation, that's where you want to spend 90% of your time, is here, because this is what everybody's going to be looking at. So yeah, we have a great team there that obsesses over making sure that we can get all of those subtle things that are happening, and I think it's reading in the scenes now. So yeah, I mean, the technical process is very similar, but it's just, I guess, it's almost like we cast wonderful actors, and then at the same time we need to cast wonderful, like, artists on the back end to make sure that they can get everything that Camilla and the rest of the cast is giving us.
In costume, yeah, it would feel very different.
Remote PCAP.
So I think that always the challenge is that we create the world in our own minds. I mean, sometimes we're given sketches to sort of help
concept
us.
art sometimes,
but at that point, they're usually not really well developed.
No, I mean,
in terms of, like, I can't really see the details of everything.
No, you get like one or two images to be like, oh, this is kind of what the environment looks like.
Yes.
Go.
Because it's very, very early days, yes. And so that will always be the biggest challenge for me, is that I have to imagine that I'm literally looking out to the world ending and a tsunami or whatever it is that's happening, and, you know, and that is difficult to do.
It must look quite ridiculous,
without
honestly.
any special effects.
Yeah. No, I mean, because I look at some of the footage, and I'm used to it now because I've been working in performance capture for years. But, you know, as trying to see it with fresh eyes, I mean, it does look quite ridiculous at some point, you know. Yeah. Because you're, you know, I think one of the scenes we had where you had to be in a certain location, and we had, like, just sticks. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to walk here, and I'm going to see this.
And I'm, like, fascinated by this amazing tomb, and nobody knows it's just a stick.
Yeah. About a series of about 7 sticks that she had to walk between.
Yeah. I think something that has made me a better actor for sure is that whenever you do motion capture, you literally have cameras right inches from your face. And in the very early days, you know, the first couple of days of doing mocap for the very first time, it's kind of bizarre speaking to someone and having something in your eye line. To be able to eventually not see that, it does help you immerse yourself in a world. And then when you go back onto, you know, whatever project you're working on, it does help you to get rid of the outside world that you're not supposed to see, whether it's camera people or anything. Like, you would do such a good job of zoning that out because you've been used to having cameras right here.
So now you have like a massive blind spot in your vision? Because like... Yes. Your Grey's cast is like, why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah, exactly. Long story.
All right, the last one's a fun one. So who would win in a fight, Nathan Drake or Lara Croft?
Lara Croft.
Oh,
next
my
question.
God. Not even a discussion, Lara Croft.
Nolan and I have talked about this on Twitter.
Yeah.
He knows my feelings.